Good evening, everybody. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the South Haven City Council. It is Tuesday, January the 3rd, 2023. Members set everything ahead. Let's call this meeting to order. In vacation this evening, we have the pleasure of having Pastor Eric Jarvis of the First Assembly of God this evening. So, good evening, and thank you for being here.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
And Happy New Year.
Thank you, Lord, for this day you've given to us as we wrap this day up and bring it to a close. But Lord, also as we look at 2022 being wrapped up and we are stepping into a new year, we pray that you will lead and guide us, that you will help us be ever more yielded to your leadership in our life. And Lord, that you will just guide us through this next year beyond this council. And we just invite you into this chamber in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you again. Happy New Year. All righty. And now if you're able, join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Roll call, Megan.
Jeff Arnold, Wendy Onuki. Here. Joe Reeser, Steve Schlock.
Here.
George Sleeper, Letitia Wilkins. Here. Scott Smith.
Here.
Make a motion to excuse the 3 members that are absent.
Second.
Motion and a second to excuse our missing council members. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no, they're excused. That takes us to the approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Motion and second to approve the agenda. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no, it's approved. Consent agenda items A through F.
Make a motion to approve consent agenda items A through F.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Onuki. Yes. Schlock.
Yes.
Wilkins.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes. All right, we're rolling. And this takes us to new business. City Council is going to be asked to consider a motion to send either option 1, which includes a food truck park, or option 2, which with no food truck parks, to the Planning Commission. So why don't we just start with some discussion? I won't seek a motion yet. Griffin's going to kick it off. And just as a reminder, we're going to be sending this back to planning because I think staff's looking. Last time we narrowed it down, the goal is we continue to. We want to send something to PC we want to see so that they can kind of put a bow on this and move this along. So we'll hear from you, we'll get some public comment, and then let's wrap it up.
Sure. So I'll start off kind of right on that point, Mr. Mayor. What we're eventually looking for is some direction to send this back to the Planning Commission. As many of you remember, this has been a topic before you all, before the Planning Commission, and now back before you all for several months now. City Council is being asked to consider a motion to send feedback on the proposed mobile food vendor ordinance to the Planning Commission. This is required per the city zoning ordinance since the draft has changed substantially from what was recommended to you all from the Planning Commission. The memo you have before you all, or in the packet, really summarizes the different discussion topics that were discussed at the food truck workshop on November 14th. You can see them starting with location, vending season, hours of operation, food truck parks, et cetera, et cetera. Most of these topics, the city council at that time came to some pretty clear consensus on. The one that I would like to draw your attention to is number 4, food truck parks. This was a topic that was recommended by the Planning Commission. City Council has had some various discussion whether or not it would be appropriate for South Haven. So what we have done is actually bring 2 options before you all, 2 versions that are almost identical, for the exception of option 1 includes food truck parks as a permissible special use, where option 2 does not. That would give you all a pretty clear choice, if you will, when it comes to deciding which one of these 2 options you would like to move forward. The other thing I'd like to draw your attention to before I take any questions or go into more specifics about anything you all would like, is what we have worked on since the workshop is also putting together a proposed or a sample ordinance or a sample resolution that could be brought back at the time of considering final adoption of an ordinance that would set the maximum number of licenses. Presently, we have that set at 10, as well as establish the various permit fees that are discussed in the proposed ordinance. So I'm happy to go into any of this in more detail, but otherwise, this memo attempts to summarize the discussion that was had at that November 14th workshop.
Okay. You want to get some public comment first? Let's get that.
Sure.
So public comment, if anyone would like to make any comments, just come on up, state your name and address. You'll have up to 5 minutes, and then we'll hear from everybody.
Trevor Brooks, 559 Phoenix. The idea of a food truck park actually was something I brought over a year ago in front of everybody. Part of it is, since it's been going through, I realized that, there's just been confusion in how this all works and stuff. The reality is, I thought the idea of food truck parks as being a location where food trucks could come, from coming downtown. I think there's definitely some value to that. When it brings diversity of food, it brings, all kinds of stuff, new food. That, just to be clear though, that's not the business model that I'm resting on. Like, I've already looking at a business model where I'd have the same diversity except using micro kitchens in a permanent manner. So I don't want, to have any illusion that, if this doesn't go through, that this whole model falls apart. Having said that, I think the idea of food trucks, and I've done the outreach to the community through social media and stuff, and there's clearly, without question, I've actually counted the people and identified whether or not they're residents, and I've had roughly about 30% of the residents of the city saying, I love your idea, love food trucks, I want to see them in this town. Whether or not where that they ultimately end up is the question, obviously at stake here. The food truck park, is specifically just a location for trucks. So I just want to understand, I think the value is certainly here. All of the arguments that I've heard back and forth, I've voiced my opinion on that topic. I think there'd be a huge value add to the city, a huge draw at every level, and hopefully you guys see the value as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And was sorry to hear about your issue with the Dairy Queen license and whatnot. So, all right, was there anybody else? Good evening.
Mary Hasley, 726 North Shore Drive. I agree. I think there is support for food trucks in the area. Unfortunately, I think the city staff has missed gathering the critical information to put forward before the city council, and I hope your elected officials are more attuned to the citizens than the city staff. First of all, I think a food truck park that's been proposed is more like spot zoning, because in the CBD, it can really only go in one spot. And that unfairly advances one party over another. And I appreciate the great efforts that he has gone to make this a welcoming community, and I applaud him for finding other business opportunities, and I wish him the most success. But I think there is some apprehension, and well-deserved, if a large number of food trucks converge on downtown automatically. I appreciate the limitation of the number of licenses, but I think the thing that's been missed the most is having a brick and mortar downtown with a kitchen license in order to have a food truck. In fact, the city staff really missed the ball on New Year's Eve ball when the request that was submitted in writing, to my understanding, in early November, was skipped over when the resolution was passed for the food trucks for New Year's Eve. on November 21st. Just totally ignored. And so that's why it's just so critical to ensure it's in the ordinance so that our entrepreneurs in the downtown area who have wonderful ideas embraced by other local establishments and the community can actually do what they ask to do without unfair obstruction by staff. And the reason I say that is because it was known at the November 21st meeting by staff, or should have been known, of the request for a food truck by a local establishment with a kitchen license. And nothing was brought up until the end of December when it was too late. And again, that's why I re-emphasize that it's so critical to have other options. And so the options 1 and 2, I think, fall short. I think they missed the boat. And that I think that you should encourage the Planning Commission to look at an avenue to allow a food truck by a brick and mortar in the CBD, a food truck, one single food truck with a kitchen license, to have that with their business so that their patrons can have food, especially in times when lines are very, very long. And also, we missed the boat to help our businesses, my tongue always gets twisted, with like the Fruit Street Kitchen. They have done fabulous work, but they're stuck to the seasonal. There's no reason it can't be year-round. It's serving a part of the community that is so underserved. And not to allow that to happen is ignoring the requests of the citizens and your electorate. So I would encourage you, like I did in my email last week, and when there could have been time to add that to the agenda that's always updated on Friday, other options. Option 3 was to allow a brick and mortar with a kitchen license to have a food truck or some avenue to get that. Option 4, an established food truck that has shown prosperity in a community especially in a community underserved, that could operate year-round. All of that would benefit our community, and all of that has been excluded, prohibited by the drafts presented to you. I encourage you to request staff to add that, or at least the Planning Commission to consider it. Thank you.
Thank you. Griffin, I know there's a couple things that at least we should probably clarify. Year-round, would you like to reiterate that again?
The vending season that has been discussed by the city council at the workshop and previous to that would be to eliminate the existing vending season, in effect allowing them to operate year-round.
Okay. Any comment? I know I had asked the question about this, a request in writing. Comments?
I believe that Mr. Feeney was asking about having a food truck there. I don't believe that he turned in a special event application with the city's special event coordinator. So there may be some miscommunication there, but it's really hard for us to just ad hoc add on another event to somebody else's event who have paid their $150 application fee. If Mr. Feeney wants a special event application, we can get one to him. And he can pay, and we can go through that, the evaluation process like we do with every other special event.
Okay. I just feel like we need to, I mean, I know let's double back to make sure he knows the process.
And if I can, Mr. Mayor, I think something that we need to highlight is that there was an option, or there was a process that was discussed to allow brick and mortar restaurants, bars, and breweries in the downtown to have the option, if they have the ample space, to have a food truck. That was actually included in the draft that was recommended to you all from the Planning Commission. The feedback provided to staff from City Council was not supportive of that, so that section was removed. There seemed to be concern at the time about opening the door to food trucks in general in the downtown, in the central business district area, but that was something that was discussed by the Planning Commission and the City Council, and, you know, that's language that could be revisited if that's what you all wanted. But that is not a topic that's been ignored. That's not a topic that hasn't been considered. That's a policy decision that was weighed, and at least so far, to date, you know, City Council made it pretty clear where they stood on that one.
Right, and I was going to bring that up later. That was one of the things I was just going to talk about when we get to it. But yeah, but it was in there, and, you know, it could be reinserted. It's not, it's not impossible. So let's go. Good evening, Joe.
Good evening. Joe Wilkins, 811 Indiana Street. I sat in on several of those meetings, and where the City Council did hear that option. I voiced my concerns last time at both those meetings, at least one, that it would seem to me to be unfair to allow the brick and mortar to, at first, remember, there was a big old letter went out by a lot of the restaurant owners. They all signed, pretty much signed, and they were against food trucks. They brought it here. It was about 12 signed on that letter. And then they turned around, you had a couple of business owners come in and want to be able to put food trucks downtown. That seems to me be a little unfair. Either you're going to allow food trucks downtown and open it up for all entrepreneurs, or you shouldn't. You shouldn't allow it, or if you do allow it, it should be allow for everybody the fair opportunity to come downtown. And I believe if that option is put back in there, then we should look at allowing food trucks to be on the beaches as well. I know that you have some rules that vendors can't be on beaches. Okay, other vendors, I don't know how the guy that owns those little stores down there came up with that. I guess that was kind of deed agreement, but it seems to be unfair. So I want to voice again that I don't think outside special events that food trucks should be allowed downtown. That's my opinion. And if it's allowed, if these brick and mortars owners, restaurant owners could come in and say, well, we have license and we would like to put a food truck in, then you should be, again, made available, allow for everybody to have food trucks that can pass the inspection, be allowed to bring their food trucks downtown Phoenix. So I was, again, it ought to be fair across the board. And I think you guys heard that argument and you spoke. I don't think you got a big push to approve that at that time. So it seems to be coming back around again. So I just want to make sure that if you guys hear that option again and and you go down that route to please the business owners, then you should consider other people that have food trucks that would like to place their food truck downtown as well.
Thank you much.
Dan Agnello, 964 Everett Parkway. I think we need to talk about two different things. A food truck park, maybe it's not downtown, maybe you put over by Taco Bell or whatever it is where that spare lot is, you have food truck park. I go up to Frankfurt fishing every year and I get on 131 and go around the north side of Crystal Lake, and there's an empty lot there with 10 food trucks. They're just sitting there at the food truck park. Like it's open all year, all summer. I don't know if it's open in winter time. It's kind of rough up there, but they have a food truck park. There's no reason why we can't have one. And then the second item is we ought to allow the brick and mortars or anybody to have a food truck downtown. Now, Trevor has tried to request it. He thinks he's kind of changing his model because of what's going on with the food truck ordinance and whatever it is. But in Tom Feeney, he wanted one. I think there's some confusion because I think the downtown people didn't vote against food trucks. I think they voted against a food truck park, which is much more trucks involved than a single food truck. But Tom Feeney and all these other businesses, they struggle in the wintertime, let's face it, okay? And anything that we can do to help the overflow in the summer with 2-hour waits and to boost their businesses in the wintertime, we should do it, okay? And Tom Feeney requested guidance on what he should do to get a food truck. And I don't think the city responded in time or whatever, and he never got a food truck. You know, I feel sorry for these guys because he even has a license. Of course, Trevor has a license, food license, but the city shot him down because he wanted to have a food truck. The city should answer and just say, hey, we should do something, we'll look into it. All that was said was, it doesn't meet the DDA ordinance that disallows food trucks, and it was left there. Okay, Tom's left out there to swim on his own. Now, Griffin went to bat for Fruit Street Kitchen. That's the best thing that happened to our neighborhood. Like I said before, Rico and, what's her name, know all the people in the neighborhood. People walk over there to get food. I mean, it's the greatest thing to happen. They know all the neighbors. I go over there all the time. If I'm not buying food, I go talk to them, see how they're doing and everything. And they got a brick and mortar going in Lawrence, and it's going to open up in April or June, depends on how much of the construction gets done. So we got to start thinking about these businesses downtown, and help them. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Anybody else?
Hi, I'm Amy Kilbridge. I live at 118 Erie Street, and I guess I'll give a perspective from a newcomer to South Haven. I've only been here a little over a year. My husband and I live here full-time now, and we love it here. And I got really excited when I heard about the possibility of food trucks and more variety. I love our restaurants, but there isn't a ton of variety. And I went to the Fruit Street Kitchen truck over the summer and loved it. And there's nobody else serving food like that in town that I can see. I know some restaurants are concerned about competition, but I'm still going to go to my restaurants here. We supported them all through the pandemic and the winter, but we like variety. And when we have people come to visit, especially in the summer, it's really nice to have options. I get tired of cooking all the time in the summer, and I would really appreciate it. And I've talked to a lot of my friends who are also enthusiastic about the food truck idea. We, as I said, will still continue to support our restaurants. I don't believe it would hurt them, but variety would help. When I saw in the Tribune on Saturday that there might be an option for Asian food and Greek food, and to be able to get it quickly, I thought that would be wonderful. And I think it would add to our quality of life here in South Haven. I know it's a good place, but I think it could be even better. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks for your comments. Welcome. Anybody else?
David Veenstra, 1220 Monroe Boulevard. I was included on an email that Mary Hosley sent to all of you in which she suggested an option 3 and an option 4, and it really made a lot of sense to me because just adding those two options, they were both very narrowly crafted so that Fruit Street Kitchen and Harbor Light would be included, and I thought the wording was good. I understand that Tom didn't apply for the special events permit on time and so on. That's understandable. But I do think that we could look at passing those two suggestions along to the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, the vending season is year-round that's being proposed. I want to make sure that's clear. All right. Was there anybody else? Going once, going twice. Okay. So let's work through this. I think we got to get through the food truck park 1. And then, as Griffin had alluded to, and I was going to bring it up at some point in time, the question of allowing an existing business in the CBD, as the language was in prior, do we want to consider putting something back into that effect? So those, for sure, we got to get through the food truck park. So, thoughts?
Yeah, I've got a few. I wasn't at the council workshop, but I've been through it all. I watched it, and I've seen the notes, and I'm actually referring to those notes that staff provided for that workshop for some of my questions. Just to give you and everybody else knowledge of where I stand. As far as the proposed ordinance, as far as in the presentation that was given at that workshop, as far as the locations for private property, it said not in the CBD or residential districts, but then it added the B1, 2, 3, and B4 in the industrial zones. So I thought that was a good addition. It said proposed ordinance for public property, it would have to be by resolution from the city council. I thought that was good. It was stated to be year-round, and I think that's come around. The proposed ordinance for the hours of operation, I don't understand why we set limits on a person's business for hours, so I didn't agree with that one. As far as the parks, the food truck parks, I'm definitely against a food truck park in the central business district. And maybe if there's a way we could put up the central business district on the screen or something so that everybody understands what the central business district is. I don't know if we can do that off the cuff or not, but I think that might help in the discussion if we have that central business district up there, if that's possible. But I'm against having the parks in the central business district. However, at the last time that I was at a city council meeting, I stated I didn't want any food trucks in the central business district. After listening to Mr. Brooks and a lot of the information that he passed forward to us, I do say I have to compromise my position slightly on that. I would agree to, and I can think of a couple examples in the central business district that have private parking lots that have room for maybe one food truck if they have a license. And so it's a little bit against what we just heard, but if they want, because it's their property, if they want to have a food truck there, I think they should be able to do that if they meet all the requirements for the room and the restrooms and things of that nature. So I'm actually, after a lot of public input and consideration, changing my position slightly on the CBD. But I can't agree to the food truck parks in the central business district. There's too many things that could change the whole look of our downtown that I'm worried about and that I've got a lot of feedback on. As far as the food trucks in general, I don't understand why we have an option that says food truck parks are only allowed in the central business district and not allowed in the B business districts and the industrial business, or the industrial areas. So I don't understand how we got to that. I would think it would, in my world, it would be just the opposite. There's no food truck parks in the central business district, but we allow them in the outlying areas. Because if we don't do it, it's just going to be just like the marijuana. The township will vote, and they'll do it, and they'll take care of it and take advantage of it. They'll go on the other side of Blue Star Highway. They'll start putting them in over there. They'll go into the different parking lots on the outskirts, on the other side of the road from where we're at, of our small little tiny town, and they'll have the food truck parks out there. So I think we need to allow them in our business districts and our industrial complex areas, but not in the central business district, because our central business district is so small, and I see it on the board now, so thank you very much. And as we look at that, you can see, and then if you were to take that map and run it against the business zones and the industrial zones on that map and see the small section that I'm talking about, I think you understand possibly where I'm coming from. So it's a difference from where I started. I've talked to a lot of people and heard a lot of input too as well. The people that are going to these food trucks, basically, I think the business owners that would worry about the competition would be your McDonald's and your Burger Kings and your Taco Bells rather than our downtown restaurants, because a person that wants something quick and easy and doesn't want to eat it there doesn't go to the downtown restaurants to begin with, so, or not that often per se. So I've heard that several times. I want to keep it available, the residentials, for the 2 times a year. I don't understand why we're excluding short-term rentals if they want to have a wedding there or something, or I don't know why we're excluding a business short-term rental from doing it twice a year. I don't know why we have to exclude those. But the private property or the church, I think the 2 times a year, I think that's fine. What else did I have here? And then in the writing of the zoning proposals that I seen, for example, in B3, you're requiring the service window to be turned towards the main structure of that piece of property, but yet in the industrial zone, you don't require that the serving window be towards the main structure, so I don't understand why we're separating those out in those 2 proposed that I noticed in the packet. I don't know why that isn't consistent. I don't understand that area either. I got one last thing I know, but yeah, just the differences, and I don't know why we're not offering a food truck park in the other businesses and industrial parks there as an option.
Yeah. And again, we could, that's kind of the question. Do we want to consider it? Would you want to consider it everywhere?
Just open it up for everybody.
So,
You just
we're good, thank you.
What was the question?
I mean, we could, the food truck park could be allowed, in all, we've seen the options. It could be CBD, it could be as,
Yeah, meeting certain criteria, the area and the restrooms and things like that.
Right.
Correct.
I would compromise to that, sure.
So
Yeah.
that would be.
I think that makes sense.
I think that's kind of where I've been trying to go. I think to allow it, if you're going to allow it there, you'd allow it in the other districts we've identified.
Correct.
So.
But I can't vote for just the CBD and not the outlying other.
No, I would agree to that. I think that's, and I think that's the guidance staff would be looking for
Like
from us
Mr.
tonight.
Wilkins said, it's got to be equal.
Yeah, I think that's what we're looking for. I would be more inclined to allow it. I agree. I mean, it should be allowed to other locations.
So citywide.
So as identified, not, I mean, there's a few that be excluded, but I mean, as we've already identified. So, I mean, and then, it seems at least we can ponder that. I mean, then the other, are there any other things relative to food truck parks that we want to include?
I
as we
think
send
the
through?
planning commission needs to set certain criteria for it. I mean, you can't just put a
Oh, they're out there.
food truck park.
Oh, yeah, they've got a lot of them. There's a lot of criteria
Right,
already
right.
established. The question really is, do we want to consider it? And it sounds like we want to consider it with allowing it to be expanded into the additional areas as we've already discussed. So that's, I mean, we'll come back to that motion in a second. So,
The business districts, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I have questions about it because I wanted to know if we allow it just downtown, how do you determine who's going to be downtown? Because I think that some of the business owners might have preferential treatment as far as having a food truck downtown, because I did hear one business owner wanting a permit for a food truck downtown.
Well, I think you're talking about, are we off the food truck park? Or, I mean, right now we're talking about a food truck park, and I think then
Okay, so I'm talking about the food truck.
individuals.
Yeah,
So why don't-
individual.
Are we kind of feeling good about the food truck park?
I have a question about
Well,
the food
if we
truck
have,
park.
when we're talking about the food truck park, I just need to make sure I'm clear. So we're talking about a food truck park downtown.
Well, and we're just discussing not just downtown, allowing it to
Right.
be in other locations rather than just the downtown.
Yes, I agree with that. I don't think it should just be allowed just downtown. I think it, now, and then I also saw that there was like a certain number. So are we going to put a cap on how many food trucks?
As of right now, as we discussed at the previous workshops, the theoretical max citywide would be 10.
And that includes
Everything.
the,
Food
okay.
truck parks, everything.
So
That
every,
does feel low to me now.
So, but again, that's done, that doesn't include, again, our special events and some of the other things that are, kind of individual events. This would be these ones that we're talking about that could potentially be here 12 months a year. So I think that's why we set the number, say, well, this is the beginning.
So
Or,
10.
No one's operating year-round right now. This would be new. So where do you want to start? So I'm hearing, though, all locations, well, as discussed,
I don't want the food truck park in the CBD. I'll do individuals by special use permit, but not in the CBD.
And what's
For a
your,
park.
and what's your
I thought-
reason?
I thought it was, yeah, I thought we were going to go everywhere. I guess CBD
Well-
included.
Right.
Where I'm at, I'm trying to encapsulate and keep our downtown, the history of our downtown the same. Not the same, but the same structure. So if we have, for example, Quaker Street, an open parking lot on Quaker Street that's 200 feet long by 150 feet wide, do we want a food truck park in there, or do we want other businesses or more housing there? I want other businesses or more housing there. As far as food trucks, if a person owns a building down there and they have extra room that it would actually work in, that's fine with me, and that's actually a reversal from my original. Originally, I was stated nothing in the CBD. But I just think that it could change the total character of our downtown, and I'm worried about that, and I'm not past that yet.
So Steve, are you saying that if a business owner has room, they should be allowed to have a food truck?
If they can meet the requirements, then yes, they should be allowed to have a food truck.
I think that's
Maybe
gonna,
that's allowing a different food truck to come in, maybe not their own business. I don't want to regulate or say that they have to sell tacos or hamburgers, but if they have their own private property that they pay their taxes on, and that they have room for to have a food truck, they should be able to pull that and allow that. That should be an allowed use for that area. It doesn't have to be, if I own ABC Restaurant,
I hear you.
and if I have the space available for a food truck, that should be an allowable use for me in my ABC area.
Okay.
I think we're gonna fall into some, I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
I just think that then you're gonna still have people saying that we're still getting the same food. We're not getting the variety, although we're saying the competition is just McDonald's. I tend to disagree because there's some food trucks who serve fried chicken with fries and a whole dinner. I mean, barbecue with a whole dinner. So
Yeah, that's
I think
what I'm saying.
I just think we're going to fall into some issues. If we allow business owners to have a food truck, but no one else can come downtown, I don't think that's going to be fair.
Then that's not what I'm saying.
Okay, then I misunderstood.
I'm saying if there's an area in downtown, in the CBD, and I'm just talking about the CBD, if there's an area that has the right makeup to allow a food truck, it should be an allowed use. That's all I'm saying. It doesn't have to be in competition with anything. It can be, if I own this restaurant, in other words, maybe I'll rent, if you have a food truck, maybe I'll rent my space to that because that's an allowed use in that area. That's all I'm saying, is that it should be an allowed use.
I think that's going to be like a gray line when you say I can, let's say I had a restaurant and I said, okay, I'm going to rent this space out to Wendy. But that's just talk. I might decide, well, no, I'm not going to rent it out to Wendy. I'm going to put my own food truck there. So I just think if either we're going to allow it downtown or we're not, I just think that it should just be cut and dry. It shouldn't be a gray area. That's just my opinion.
And I think that's what I'm saying. If
Oh, okay.
I will allow it in downtown.
Okay.
Okay, I need,
If
I need the
it
audience to
meets the
please be quiet.
criteria, it's allowed downtown. That's what I've changed my position. I said
Oh.
no
Yeah.
before. Now I'm saying yes, CBD, you can have it if it meets all the criteria. It should be an allowed use in the downtown.
I think when you talk about the truck parks, though, in the CBD, I don't know how many properties would even qualify for, like,
Only a
meeting
few.
all of the needs. I think
Needs.
it'd be only a handful.
Just a few.
And for me, I think it would add vibrancy, and I could just see it making people, like, it adding a connection and, I don't know, drawing people downtown, and I don't think it would for me, take away from the character of our downtown, because I don't think there would be that many, or
Mayor?
that they would hurt the feel of downtown.
I agree with Wendy. I just have one more question, Mayor.
You're good.
So if we were to vote on a food park downtown in the C,
Could be downtown, could be
but if we were to,
expansion also.
Okay.
Could be expanded throughout.
where would we put it downtown?
That's to be determined. That's not what we're.
If I can,
Sorry, go ahead.
city council wouldn't determine where it would go. If city council would allow it as a use on private property in the central business district, for example, that would then be up to private property owners who can meet those criteria. City council's not going to get to say, we're going to put one food truck park here and we're going to put a food truck park here, unless you all were considering them on public property, which has not been something that has been discussed to this point.
So, again, so I think, and I'm sorry, see, I thought at first you were saying consider CBD as well as the business districts and the industrial.
I was talking about the single food trucks.
Right. So I guess, I mean, I feel comfortable with the food truck park
Being one of the
as
10.
a concept and expand it into the others, so it's basically could be anywhere. So if the first person that comes forward has a proposal for one in one of these other districts and it meets all the criteria, then let them bring that forward. Maybe it's not going to be in the CBD, maybe it'd be someplace else, but we don't
Okay.
have to limit it to the CBD
I see
for
what
that
you're saying.
purpose. I'm saying it could be at any of these other spaces. That would answer that, so, and then we have kind of the second issue, which is this issue of, again, what was proposed, what PC brought to us. At first, I mean, we had discussed it, and then PC gave it back to us, but language that would allow an existing kind of brick and mortar business in the CBD to have a food truck
Right.
on their property.
And that, correct.
that was
And
that-
that doesn't mean that they're the ones operating that
Right.
food truck. It
Right.
just means that
They could-
they can have a food
could have
truck present
somebody-
on their property.
Correct. So,
Yep.
again,
So I think some examples to think about is New Holland Brewery has parking space behind, they have that back door and they have parking space. Theoretically, that's an existing brick and mortar business. If they wanted to have a food truck back there, could they? There are other businesses, again, as some of you have mentioned, it's not every business, because not every business is going to have the available space.
Right.
But there are a handful of them downtown that theoretically would have the space, and they could consider that.
yeah, okay. So that's, and again, that's something we could consider. So those are kind of, I mean, that's really not even in here, but we could add that if we want to add that for consideration, if someone wanted to put that into a motion.
Okay.
So that's what I need. So kind of the first question is, would you like to consider food trucks, CBD, and
Well,
beyond?
yes, CBD and beyond. But for
Well,
everyone.
you want to do that? Maybe we should do this in two pieces. Shall we do the food truck park first? Let's do that. So,
Okay, do you have something to say?
Well, I was just going to say that option one, which is in your packet, includes food truck parks, I think specifically to the central business district. If you are thinking about food truck parks, determine the district you want them in, and we can add that in as part of your motion, as something, because we're trying to give very clear guideposts to planning commission, because they have to review these items before they can come back for final approval with the city council in the two readings. So if we're thinking about food truck parks, which is option one, let's just determine what districts we're thinking of, because it sounds like there's a mixed bag of either including them in the CBD or not including them in the CBD.
right. So I guess I'm just going to throw, we started with, possibly in the CBD, not in the CBD, and then we've discussed business districts, B1, B2, B3, B4, and the industrial zones, as kind of in the proposed ordinance. So the question would be, basically, you would allow the food truck parks to be expanded beyond the CBD?
It looks like you have another question, Letitia.
I do. I guess because I'm still kind of stumped.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No?
It's
But-
confusing.
Yeah, because I feel like, well, maybe we need some more discussion. I think it should be, okay, I feel like it's either in the CBD or not, but it could just be the other districts. Because it just seems like it's going to be confusion if we say include the CBD,
And this is for the park or any food truck?
any food truck.
Okay. I think we got to separate. we gotta separate
And the
baby from
park,
bathwater.
because I just think it's going to, I feel a conflict. And that's just me. Maybe it's just me. Help me out, Wendy.
Yeah.
I'm feeling
Well,
the
you-
conflict. I just think that we're going to have to say all of South Haven excluding CBD
To me, it makes sense to
For the
have
park.
the CBD.
for the park and for individual.
It wouldn't be all of South Haven, though, because we're not talking about residential
We're not talking
districts.
about
No,
We
no.
haven't-
I'm
so-
just talking, when I say all, I'm just talking about the other.
Okay, the
business-
business and the industrial
Yeah,
districts.
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think food trucks in the CBD, though, make sense to be, like everyone has talked about, like for businesses that, have a kitchen license or that just want to expand their offerings and try new things.
I guess my concern, Wendy, well, not just to Wendy, but to everyone, I think my confusion is if we allow it downtown, there's no clear place where we're saying this is going to be. Right now, we have this,
The whole area could be.
right. So I guess if we knew for certain,
Can I try to help?
yeah, please.
So I think we are getting a little bit confused about public property and private property. So when it comes to private property, all we can do, what zoning allows, what we've been discussing, is you can say, yes, it's an allowable use, no, it's not an allowable use. If you say it's an allowable use with whatever conditions or requirements or restrictions you do, and those can be met, they can then do it on their property if they want to and they meet the requirements, or they can choose not to. It's not necessarily establishing a spot that's always going to be there. Alternatively, there's public property. That's really the only place I can see where city council can go, we're going to say this is a food truck spot, and we're designating this parking spot or this part of a parking lot, and we're going to say this is where food trucks can go and operate. The direction that we've been given really since we've begun this conversation and for many, many years is that's not something city councils want to consider. But you all have the authority to designate those spots right now. The ordinance that's already in place gives you all the authority by resolution to designate public property to be used for food trucks. But I think we're confusing how we regulate and what you can do on public and private property, and what you all as city council can do to dictate the uses in those areas.
Well, if the private owners have food trucks, and are those numbers are going to still be are they going to still be a part of the 10?
Yes.
See, that's my
Because you'd be getting a license, the way this ordinance and actually the ordinance we have in place now, how they're set up, is you have to register with the city. You have to get a permit to operate. It doesn't matter where, you have to get a permit to operate. And then the next piece is finding an appropriate location as allowed by ordinances on where you're going to operate.
And what if we don't find one?
Then you don't get to operate.
They don't get operated. Yeah.
Right. So that's what
Right.
I'm really concerned.
Then, right,
That's what I'm concerned about.
right. So there is,
I mean, I can't stop someone from doing something on their own private property, but I'm just talking about it's not gonna seem fair.
But you are
We're
correct.
go-
Just
we're go-
because you get let's say you get a permit, you register your food truck in South Haven to operate. If you can't find an approved location, you wouldn't then be able to operate.
Exactly. And so, my question is, so we can only have 10. We know right now there are a couple of people who are working in the South Haven Township and then some outside of South Haven who are looking to come into South Haven.
10's an artificial number. City council can set that at whatever they want or set no cap at all.
And that would be in the resolution, so it could be changed
Correct.
versus easily changed rather than the ordinance, which has to go through multiple.
Yep. Or the
readings.
recommendation that the planning commission didn't contemplate or have a cap. That was something that city council has also discussed and has been added. So I think that's a valid concern, but that can be addressed.
So in simple terms, if we say we will allow food trucks in the CBD, we're just offering them, the CBD, another use for their property, correct?
Yes.
Would that be the simplest way to
That's, I
say
think,
it?
yes.
Okay. And I'm okay with
It'd be
that.
another allowed use there.
Yeah, and I feel like I got what,
Used to be, so I'm sorry.
you're fine.
I don't envy staff because I know city council has waffled back and forth a little bit on this, me being one of them, so I apologize to you for that, but that's all I'd say. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah, never mind. I don't really have a lot to add there.
Is it,
So-
is it possible to,
We can talk about public property in a separate motion too, if you wanted to. Because right now it's by us voting, right?
Right, we get some feedback from you, we would draft a resolution to have those areas be located.
can this be tabled?
I just feel like we've been pushing it back so far. It'd be nice to send it. Like, if we had
Okay, so
Any-
if we approve it and we send it, and then,
to planning, and then they would bring it back
That would come
for
back
us,
again.
and then we would decide
and then we
again.
decide again.
Correct.
If I can,
it's either that or
if that's
comes
where
back.
you all want to go, what staff is looking for is very specific direction to send to the planning commission. Because I think part of the confusion we've seen is this was a topic that was brought before the city council. You all sent it to the planning commission with pretty broad guidelines.
Yes, that's what we're
They-
looking for, is very clear guideposts to what you're wanting. So if you are wanting just food trucks in all districts, or all business and industrial zones districts, including CBD, then please say that, so we can mark that on for the planning commission. Because ideally, they would add in the parts, review what they see, make a recommendation, they could follow your recommendation or not, but once that kind of procedural step is done, we would bring that back.
Well, what I can do is try and offer an emotion, see if it gets support and we vote. And then we can go in the other way and make a different motion. How about that, if we try to move forward with that?
Give it a go.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we offer food truck parks in the B1, in the business districts of B1, B2, B3, and B4, and the industrial zones of I1, I1B, and I2, but not in the CBD district or residential districts. This is food truck parks.
Is there a second?
Doesn't appear
No
to be.
second. Okay.
Okay.
Is there a counter? Anything else?
I would make a motion to consider sending option 1 with the change of adding the other business districts and industrial zones for the food truck parks to the planning commission.
Okay, so B1, B2, B3, B4.
Yeah,
So this is food truck parks again.
but I should say, was there something else about,
Did you include CBD, or you did include?
I did.
Okay.
But was there something else about the, making it open for anybody with a kitchen license?
Yeah,
That
or we
would
could
be
take it in
private.
pieces. Yeah,
Okay, so we
let's-
can
why
do
don't we
that.
There's many
take this in
different types of
pieces?
kitchen licenses, that's a pretty
Yeah,
broad.
yeah, I think we
Oh,
have to
okay.
just break that apart. So
Okay.
I think right now we're on the food truck
Okay.
parks. Are we game to?
Just the food truck park.
Yep, just food truck parks. So this is yours with the CBD added.
Right.
I got nothing. Okay. So with only 4 of us here, I'd say we should probably consider tabling this to the next meeting. We need some more voices here to move this along. We're done. We're not going to get anywhere.
Okay. So is there a motion to
Make a
table?
motion to table.
I'll second.
Motion second to table this. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
All right. Let's roll on. Easy. No, it's.
We'll get there
3-1.
eventually.
We're okay now?
We will.
Yeah.
With just the 3 yeses?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I should have voted yes on that.
You're
We
good.
have,
Can
yeah,
I, can I
that's,
change my vote for the tabling to yes?
what's your vote going to be then?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
Okay.
We're tabled out. All right. Next one's easy. City Council will be asked to approve the proposed workshop schedule for priority setting, capital improvement workshop, budget workshop, and DEI workshop number 2.
I make a motion that we approve the proposed workshop schedule for priority setting, capital improvement workshop, budget workshop, and DEI workshop number 2.
Second.
We got a motion. We got a second. Any discussion? They're all posted out there. They're out there.
Posted, we have priority setting next Monday at 5 PM. Then we'll do our second DEI workshop on March 6th. And then, as you know, everyone's favorite month is April, when we have our back-to-back meetings. We'll also be having our back-to-back workshops. So that's part of our process. April's just a tough month.
Sounds good. Motion second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. It's approved. Next, we're going to get an update from Mr. Bill Hunter, Public Works Director. Good evening, Bill. It's before 8. Woo.
Looks different.
Happy 2023.
It's like Christmas.
It's like Christmas, exactly.
I like your beard.
I was going to say.
Thank you,
that
Your
looks
Honor, City
different.
Council.
Good.
Oh, yeah, I thought I'd grow it out. Taking an inventory of the gray, have to grow it out once in a while.
There you go.
Here's an update for City Council. New substation distribution circuit project, that's under construction as we speak. AMI project, we're still waiting on meters for that. Base stations are in. We did come up with a buy-in agreement for Shawsa, so they'll be utilizing the station. But we're still waiting for a full implementation about spring of probably either the summer of 2023. However, the meters coming in, it's still been a very slow process. Cost of service study for the electric, City Council approved that during their last meeting. What we're looking at is actually taking a look at the financials, the capital improvement plan, the operations. The cost of service study / rate design is seeing what are we charging? Will that rate and those rates be able to sustain us in the future? Do we need to lower, raise them? And that's what a cost of service study is. They should be done every few years. The good thing about this one with UFS is once you have one done, they can do updated projections once a year. So they have the base put into place, and they just update it and see how your rates are doing. Having a cost of service study does prevent you, or you're less vulnerable to what they call as a rate challenge. That's when somebody can challenge and say, your rates are unfair based on you don't have a capital improvement plan, you don't have an asset management plan, and which we do. But we still need one to actually just to show our users actually, here's the rate and here's how we came to it. So Aylworth, the non-motorized path, we're still looking at a spring of 2023. It's in the process of the rebidding through MDOT as we speak. The air handling unit for City Hall here, those should be coming any time now. I'm looking for in a spring installation. Now, during that time frame, we're going to have to watch the weather because when we do it, there won't be any heat. So we'll be very cognitive of that, but it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. Kids Corner, we did apply for a DNR Spark grant application, and that was submitted. That is for, it's called, I want to call it the Phase 2 of the project, is the outside of actually originally what was approved by City Council, and it's an addition to. So we're looking at the merry-go-round, the zip line, and the 1/8 of a mile path that surrounds it, and some pour-in-place for the 2 additional pieces. That's totaling $232,000. In addition, as a note that the merry-go-round is an essential social function, bringing kids of all abilities together. So we're looking at community fundraising, fence pickets, for the rope climb and the climbing spinner, and the total for that fundraising is $183,000. Parks Master Plan, we plan on having a public hearing for the Tuesday meeting, January 10th, in City Council chambers. So it's January 10th at 7 p.m. Right now, it is on our website, so you can make comments of the plan. Street resurfacing for the spring of 2022. The work is completed. Actually, I have it as outstanding because we still need to do pavement markings. And unfortunately, you can't do it during this time period. If you do, we'd have to put them just right back on. Street resurfacing and that's 2023. That'll be in the spring. That project will be bid out this winter and be completed in the spring of 2023. Shawsa Water Service replacement. We do a partnership with Shawsa and the cities for any street resurfacing we do. So we do potholes of those services to see if they're lead. And if they are lead, we replace them. So we work directly actually with the property owners. Shawsa, the wastewater treatment plant project. We're actually applying for another grant for that as well. Recently, we were awarded actually a 3.65, well, it's actually a $7.3 million we were awarded. We actually have a 3.65 forgiveness on the loan. This is an addition to that. So we're the hopes of, with this grant, we'd be able to get another 1.5 million to address the high water issues we had at the wastewater treatment plant. And with hopes of that 1.5 million can actually go for further improvements at the wastewater treatment plant of the master plan there. Shawsa is doing a water system reliability update as well as an asset management plan. Safe Water Drinking Act requires us to do this every 5 years as an update to the plan, in addition to the general plan itself, which is required within the water reliability study. An asset management plan is required. What they do is they do a scenario. They have a model set up in a WaterCAD computer system. They do fire flows, and then with that information, they look at certain improvements they can do. The asset management plan is one I've referenced before, where I had to actually create a 40-year plan on top of that just to make it affordable for us. The Shawsa Safe Water Drinking Act, we are applying for the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund for the replacement of the concrete standpipe. So, yes, we are under contract and doing designs for the replacement of the concrete standpipe, but this is to get Drinking Water State Revolving Funds for that. It's the only way possible we can actually apply to get the federal funds. It's the only mechanism we have. So with that also is the lead service replacement. We're hopes actually we can get some more federal dollars for that as well. Covert flushing flushers, we have 3 flushers in that system. The current ones have been unreliable, so we're ordering 3 more, and we're still waiting for those to come in. Shawsa cost of service rate and design update, similar to what I talked about before with the electric. In the Shawsa, what we do, since we had the base plan done, we do a projection every year to see where our rates are falling. Make sure we're charging what we can based on if something does change and it does recommend maybe lowering or raising, that's what you can look at. And the Shawsa board asks for that once a year. And the Dykeman Avenue over Black River scouring project for the Baskill Bridge, we'd had a underwater inspection done in 2020, and you could see some scouring of the piers. Scour test is required, like every 5 years. So we have to do actually some riprap there to prevent any further scouring. And this project is actually, we have actually the permits from Eagle and the Army Corps, but we're actually looking at having this project start in March and completed in April of 2023. During that replacement around the piers, anticipated vehicle traffic and boat traffic will be limited on the weekends. But right now, we don't have anything set at this time, but when we get a contractor in, and it depends too on when these costs come in. If me and Mike seemed a little high, we might just actually push this project off another year and then rebid it. But we didn't think it actually hurt to get the bids and see what they would come in at. So I'm here to answer any questions City Council might have of these projects or anything else related to DPW.
Questions? Any questions? I'd say nice job on the snowstorm.
Oh, thank you.
I got in and out of work without a problem. Thank you very much.
I'm sure some people were upset about that.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. But it was good. No, we appreciate
thank
it.
you.
They were out and the sidewalks were clear and everyone got it taken care of. So we thank you very much. And now we have a flood. So thank you. All right. Now, citizens in the audience can be heard on items not on the agenda, which means anything but food trucks, pretty much. You can come on up and anything you want. Keep it simple. Come on up, state your name and address. You'll have up to 5 minutes and then we'll hear from us and we can go. Going once, going twice.
Well, don't argue.
Yeah, let's go.
Nothing about the food truck.
No, sir.
Nothing about the food truck.
Right.
Anything but that.
I think the council owe it to the residents in this area to be fair and to represent everybody, to be fair across the board. It seems to me tonight that the council did a total 180 in their positions on things that's very important to residents in this community. So I'm going to urge this council to remember that your constituents voted for you because they thought you would be the person that would help lead this community, this city, in a fair and transparent way. And I've come down here meeting after meeting, and it seemed like there's a big chunk of the community left out in this decision process. And it's becoming more irritating. People flipping to support the interests of the majority. And that is not fair. There are people being left out of this process down here. And it appears to me that several on this council don't even care. Our voices are overlooked. Our concerns are overlooked. Our voices aren't being heard. And that is very irritating. There is more people that live in this area besides business owners. Put restrictions on a church as if churches don't have struggles too. COVID hurt churches just like it did the business owners. And I heard tonight of a restriction on a church that would try to do something to raise funds to make ends meet. But you open up the door for business owners. There are other people in this community that's hurting besides those that can afford a brick and mortar downtown. And when they come up with ideas that try to make ends meet, they shouldn't get the door shut on them by people that sit on this council.
Anybody else?
Mary Hasley, 726 North Shore Drive. I actually have to echo Bishop Wilkins' comments. I have found similar disparity in treatment of people depending on what their request is or who they are. So I applaud your comments and support them. And toward that end, and this is not doing a 180 of what I just said, I do see differences, and I do appreciate Councilman Schlack's reversal for the CBD for a brick and mortar. And that's not what I'm going to talk about. What I've seen is, you know, I know two parties can have differing views of what the facts are. But gosh, I just see such a disparity in representations between the person trying to get something done and the staff. And I think that goes along the lines of what Bishop Wilkins is alluding to. For example, for the New Year's Eve festival, we had someone trying to get a food truck. Now, this is not the food truck ordinance, so it's separate. He submitted something in writing on November 4th, and heard absolutely nothing. And now we're hearing from staff that he didn't make a request. Well, he made a request, to the best of my understanding. What are the next steps? And staff just did nothing. So please don't, it's very disingenuous to say there wasn't a request. If there's a request for guidance on what to do, then you reach out and you have a communication. You don't just sit and wait until it's too late to do anything. And the representation that the food truck that was at the New Year's Eve was for coffee and desserts was incorrect. That's what was on the resolution, but I am sure it served much more than coffee and desserts. So we're just seeing disparity on how matters are handled, and that needs to stop, and that needs to stop right now. It needed to stop last year. It's insult to injury to say that that food truck was coffee and desserts. But I don't want to focus on just that. As you know, I'm a process person. I like to look at the budgets too. And last year, when this council voted on the Kids Corner, another resident brought out the fact that the DPW budget was being shifted so that a CIP item for the women's locker room to come up to be similar to the men's locker room. The budget was going to be shifted so that that money could be diverted to the Kids Corner because of the shortfall. Mayor asked Kate to look at ways to make the budget work so that that wouldn't have to happen. I would like to know what the status. I reached out to Mr. Tuttle and he has heard nothing. So I am here to request a status report of what is happening with the budget, what's being done to ensure that the item that's been in the CIP for a while to allow the women DPW workers to have a shower like the men do is kept on budget and kept on schedule, and what is going to be done for the shortfall for the Kids Corner to keep that going forward. We are at a point where there's a lot of hands out looking for money, looking to fill in shortfalls of the budget. We'll see that at DDA tomorrow, holding out a hand for something that was supposedly a gift. So I would like to see this council set a budget, make sure there's no gaps, and have it fully displayed so that we see exactly where the money is going and what is not meeting budget, because I believe last year's budget was okay because it was eating into the excess that we had, the rainy day fund. But it would really be nice to know, at least immediately, with the parks plan coming up and the Kids Corner coming up, what exactly is being done to ensure that the DPW women workers continue to get their shower, which was in the CIP, and money is not diverted for personal projects. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I know it's my time to talk about some things, and
Before
I
you go,
do want to talk about just the fantastic job that, oh, sorry, was there anything else?
I just want to make sure we had nobody else. Was there anybody else in the public before I went on? Sorry, I just want to make sure you were ready, set. You were good. Sorry, go ahead.
Great. I just want to let DPW know they have our highest kudos. They did a fantastic job with that winter storm. I've seen some of the streets that were outside of the city, and I know they were a little bit shaky, but I think the DPW did a great job of just clearing a lot of snow, and it was a lot of snow. So I wanted to give big kudos to them. Also, big kudos to the CVB, the Convention and Visitors Bureau, for putting on the New Year's Eve celebration in the downtown. That was well run. They have a very good crew that puts together a lot of just the special event for that, and they put together a lot of different items on there. The fireworks were well received. The beach ball drop went off well. There's just a lot going on. We've had a lot of conversation here. I can tell you that on November 4th, we received an email from Tom Feeney, and we were looking into it, but he doesn't say anything about having a New Year's Eve food truck anywhere in that email. So I hear that people are very confused and why didn't we do whatever. A special event application gets processed. Michelle Coffey handles those. But when we get an email and it does not mention food trucks for a specific date, but is more like talking about it overall, that's how we handled it. So I hear the confusion. Our job here is not to be misdirective or anything like that. We're trying to help people, but you have to be clear about what you're asking for, or just say you don't know what you're asking for, and we can help you out with that too. So with that being said, those are my comments.
Yeah, and again, the first time I had heard that inkling of that specific request was like Christmas. I mean, it was very late, and I said, I gave
Yeah,
it
and our
right to
last
staff.
meeting was
I
the
said,
19th, so there's not much we can do when there's not a special event application submitted. The CVB was never asked about adding a food truck on to Mr. Feeney's, or adding a food truck on for Mr. Feeney at Harbor Light. That never was made a request to them. So I guess I'm a little mystified where the confusion was. So,
Okay.
again, we can see what we're going to do next year.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it. So any other questions for Kate? Nothing. All right, council comments. I'll start on my right. Should be quick.
Just wanted to wish everyone a happy new year and say that I'm excited for this coming year to see what we can do as a city to kind of grow together and listen to one another and make things even better as this unique and special place to live. And for the food truck thing, I'm sorry we couldn't get that done and passed on today. I think for me, I hear residents who really want to see that happen. So hopefully we'll get it figured out sooner than later. And that's it.
Very good. Thank you.
No comment.
Happy New Year's to everyone. I do want to say that the City Council as a whole, we try very hard to hear what the different wards are saying and what the city is saying, and we want to make the best decisions that is right for everyone. So that is why I personally don't like to rush on things that I'm not clear on, so I don't want anyone to feel like we're just not hearing you, but sometimes we do need more clarity, and we want to just make sure we're making the right decisions. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Just one, thank you for coming. Number two, again, just thanks to the CVB for all the organization it took to pull off New Year's Eve. I know that's a lot of work, getting all that paperwork in and just all the logistics of pulling that off. So thanks to all of them for making that happen, to city staff for their support of that. Again, just Bill, to your staff, kudos for all the work that you've been doing. And again, yeah, I guess we as a council, of course, we listen, but we need to hear, if there's specific thoughts, ideas, and concerns, I mean, you need to get a hold of us. I guess I would just leave it at that. We're receptive, email, phone, in person. I mean, this is a very open and very, easy to communicate with group of people. We all work, live in this community. So to say that we're not, listening or paying attention, I would beg to differ and say, make sure you try to reach out to us first. So I'll just leave it at that. So I appreciate, again, all the comments. I'll seek a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Motion second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Good night, everybody.